guys? My name is Jack Wright, known as Jackpot Button Lewis on YouTube, and welcome to this exclusive preview video of a brand new video series that I had just created just over a few weeks ago, would you believe? And it's been inspired by one of my favourite, of course, Saturday night entertainment programmes, which is Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway. Welcome to, once again, this preview video on my brand new video series on YouTube of Jack and John's Saturday Night Theatre Trip. Yes, as you could tell, this, of course, is slightly different to, of course, the original show of Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway, as this, of course, adaptation of course, this series that I'm doing is all dedicated to theatre. So, I mean, it's obviously still got a bit of an entertainment element to it, but obviously it's not exactly got any games like, of course, the original show, which Ant and Dec do. And also, if you're wondering why it's called Jack and John's Saturday Night Theatre Trip, I'm not just presenting this, but also I'll be joining my, of course, my very good, of course, dad, who is John Wright, and of course we go and see shows together. And that's basically, of course, the format to, of course, this brand new series. It's quite self-explanatory, to be quite honest. But of course, the main difference, as always, with this show is that, obviously, we only go and see shows, of course, and it can all depend on what it is, and we're not just focusing on musical theatre, just like, of course, my theatre blog series of Theatre Going, where, like I did, of course, in the second series of that series, I decided to challenge myself to go and seeing, of course, events that are all to do with the arts, so not just, of course, theatre, but also music, singing, dancing, art, anything that goes under the category of the arts. I will be, and of course, alongside with my dad, will be going to see as many events as possible and give our thoughts on it, to be quite honest. I mean, like I said, it is very self-explanatory, this series, and but of course, there is, of course, a few ideas that I have got planned for this series, and I'm really excited to be doing this series, of course, inspired, like I said, by my very favourite, of course, Saturday night entertainment programme of Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway. It has been, of course, on hold for the moment, as you do know, of course, if any of you are big followers of Ant and Dec, that Ant has just, of course, finished his driving ban for, of course, being convicted of drink driving and, of course, causing a collision with another motorist. And obviously he also had a bit of a drug addiction as well, but that was the reason why he had that is because he was trying to recover from a dodgy knee operation he had, I think, a few years ago, from what I remember. And but I have heard that it will be coming back in the new year, and obviously Ant did have time off away from the show and other things as well, so he could get his health all back up to normal. And he did come back, especially earlier on this year, of course, for this year's, of course, series of Britain's Got Talent. And it was very emotional, because normally Ant and Dec are quite inseparable, of course, as always, if you are familiar with most of the work they do. So, but like I said, to kind of be in the footsteps of, obviously, I'm not completely copying their idea for, of course, this show of Saturday Night Theatre Trip, but of course, with this show, it was all mostly my idea, and obviously, basically, like with any other series that I do, I normally it normally takes me to get an idea from somewhere else, and I like to take it apart, but I also like to make it my own to keep it fresh and original, basically. But like I said, that is, well, there's nothing else really to talk about, to be honest. As I said, I'm really looking forward to be doing this series, and on the topic of that, we of course are going to be doing our first episode this weekend on the 24th of August 2019, and of course I'm not going to tell you a little too much, well, I will tell you a little bit, but not too much, that I was going to say, of what to expect on the first episode. And let me tell you guys, we are, of course, very excited to doing this, especially me, because we are going to be going to see a musical that is mostly talked about a lot in the West End of London at the moment, and it's become, I think, actually a phenomenon, basically, since it has been in the West End for over 2 years, would you believe? It's been on a UK tour. They've just announced productions starting in America. They already had one in Chicago, and then also one in, I think, Boston, which is just going to kick off later on this week. There's also a performance of it coming up, a touring production across Norway on a cruise. And there's also future productions going to be in Japan, the Philippines, and South Korea, and even Australia, would you believe? They've just announced as well, which is going to be happening next year in 2020. Well, as I said, if you don't know, of course, what this musical is and of course what it's all about, well, I think I'll give you one final clue on what it's all about, and prepare yourself, guys, because this is something I was certainly not expecting to do. But as always, you know me, I love dressing up with, of course, when I go and see shows, of course, depending on, of course, regardless of where they are. And I understand, I know you can't see me, guys, but I'm just getting the costume right here now. And check this costume out, guys. You wouldn't believe, this is actually the costume I'm going to be wearing on the very first episode. Ta-da! Yes! Well, of course, if you don't know what costume this is actually a Tudor costume based on the very famous ruthless king himself of Henry VIII. Now, there is one musical that is all part of, not of his life, but the 6 wives that he had. And I think that might be a bit of a clue, of course, of what the first episode of Jack and John's Saturday Night Theatre Trip will be. And it's going to be, well, initially I was going to say, of course I'm not going to spoil it too much for you, but I bet since loads of people are a big fan of the musical itself, the very first episode of Jack and John's Saturday Night Theatre Trip is where I and my dad, John Wright, are going to see the most talked about musical in London's West End at the moment, of 6. That's right, guys. I am very excited to announce that I will be going to go and seeing it, of course, this weekend, once again on the 24th of August. And honestly, I'm really, really excited, guys. You have no idea. And this is going to be, I think this will be the second time I'm actually going to go dressed in a costume, actually. The last time I done this was on my episode of when I went to see Heathers in theatre going, of course, in the second series I done last year. And I played, and I dressed up as JD, or Jason Dean, the character that Jamie Moscato played in the West End production. But this is obviously a costume that I never thought I would get, and I've been really excited to get this. And I'm not just wearing this. I've got a hat. I've got the jewellery. I've got tights. I've got modern style boots as well. Because even though it's supposed to be a modern adaptation on an iconic time in British history, of course, once again in the Tudor period with Henry VIII and his 6 wives, I did want to put a bit of a modern take on my costume, because that's what the performers, or the queens as they're called in 6 the musical, that's how they normally look whenever they do of course the show normally in the West End. But anyway, of course, I think I might have rambled on a little bit too much, but you know me, guys, honestly, as soon as I start talking, I can never shut up. But, of course, there you go. I think that's a little good enough preview for you guys of what to expect in the very first episode. And, of course, the start to my brand new video series that I'm really excited to be starting off this weekend on YouTube, of Jack and John's Saturday Night Theatre Trip. So I hope you, of course, are looking forward to seeing the series. And if you also did not know, I know, of course, I may look different here, but obviously, like I said, if I haven't said already, of course, the reason why I've got this beard is because, obviously, being Henry VIII. So, because normally when I dress up, I normally go all out, guys, honestly. I mean, you know, I'm never shameful for it. I'm not normally self-conscious and all that. I mean, I'm a bit audacious, and I'm willing to take risks if I need to impress anyone, and I love it. And when people think that I've obviously worked hard on doing something, or dressing up, or, you know, coming to see the show and being very big supporters of a load of performers in the London's West End, I really do appreciate it, honestly, because, I mean, you know, with them being part of a musical that has been so successful since it started, obviously Six, I mean, it has become one of the most popular musicals, once again, like I said, in London's West End currently, and I am really, really excited. And don't forget, guys, I've also got front row tickets, so obviously, hopefully, as you might have, if any of you have already seen Six the Musical, one of the performers normally picks up, of course, people's phones, obviously, when they film the Mega Six at the end, so I'm hoping to get my phone picked by whoever is going to do that. I don't know. I haven't officially found out the official cast for the show just yet, but I'm really looking forward to finding out on Saturday when, of course, I go and see the show with, of course, my dad, John. So, without, of course, well, I think without nothing else to say, I think that's the end of this preview video. So, once again, thank you very much for watching, even though that it has been a bit elongated than usual. But, as I said, I'm fine to roll with it as always. And I'll see you, of course, this weekend for the very first episode, live, of course, here on YouTube of Jack and John's Saturday Night Theatre Trip, of course, which will start at 7 o'clock live on YouTube this Saturday night. Once again, like I said, here on YouTube. So I look forward to seeing you all, of course. I hope you enjoyed the very first episode. And me and my dad, John Wright, will see you in just a few days' time for the very first episode of my brand new video series here on YouTube of Jack and John's Saturday Night Theatre Trip. So until then, thanks very much for watching this preview video, and we'll see you in a few days' time for the very first episode. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!